Afghanistan's Arghandab River Valley, U.S. military officials say their offensive here has gone exactly as planned.
This is a place we've wanted to get into for some time.
So far, there have been no U.S. or Afghan deaths. At least 20 insurgents have been killed, and U.S. troops now control areas they have never been in before. The only frustration, the Taliban melted away rather than fight. So now, the hardest work begins for the troops, winning over a distrustful people who are largely sympathetic to the Taliban. Meanwhile, President Obama is defending his Afghanistan strategy. He told Rolling Stone magazine this week, the strategy has not failed, but that the Afghan war is harder than the war in Iraq, and that key aspects of his troop surge plan will take time to succeed. A group of experts in Afghanistan, though, say the president needs to rethink his strategy and scale back the military footprint in the country. The so-called Afghanistan Study Group released a report in Washington which says the large U.S. presence has a negative impact because it is seen as an occupation force that has motivated the Taliban. Paul Pillar was a senior analyst with the CIA for 28 years.
Our presence also encourages closer cooperation, as the report points out, among a disparate array of extremist groups in Afghanistan and Pakistan alike. We've brought the enemies together.
The group contends there is a disconnect between the reason the U.S. went to Afghanistan 9 years ago and what it is trying to achieve now. The analysts say the original mission was to permanently destroy al-Qaeda hideouts, and that they say most of those have been destroyed. They also say al-Qaeda is so decentralized right now, it might not even want to return. Again, Paul Pillar.
Even if given the opportunity to return to Afghanistan, it's not at all apparent that al-Qaeda would see a net advantage in doing so in comparison to its current presence in Pakistan and its activities elsewhere.
The members of the group do differ on some details. Author and analyst Charles Kupchan says the U.S. needs to ensure that al-Qaeda cannot return.
I think that the claim that al-Qaeda wouldn't have a chance to return to Afghanistan if the Taliban comes back is perhaps overstated. I think there are conditions that we need to have in place to make sure that that doesn't happen.
But the group says the U.S. only needs air and naval power to achieve that goal, not a large number of ground troops. It also says any military effort in Afghanistan should be tied to achieving reconciliation among the various political groups, including the Taliban. On Tuesday, in fact, Afghan President Hamid Karzai appointed a committee to negotiate peace talks with the Taliban, calling for the Taliban to renounce violence and respect the country's constitution. But the Taliban has dismissed reconciliation talks, saying international forces must first leave Afghanistan. Matthew Ho of the New America Foundation says accepting the constitution should not be a condition for talks. And he says the U.S. should support bringing all kinds of Taliban into the mix. Ho says the U.S. cannot fight its way to its objectives, but can negotiate its way to bring stability and development.
Until you reach some degree of political accord where you bring in those groups that are now supporting the Taliban because they feel excluded from the government, you will not have the stability necessary to achieve any of the things you said.
The Afghanistan Study Group says the U.S. is spending almost $100 billion a year in Afghanistan simply because momentum has pushed it into expanding its role there. The analysts say that considering the poor status of the U.S. economy, the Obama administration must make sure the benefits of spending that much money outweigh the cost. Ravi, Khanna, VOA News, Washington.